What is the most absurd thing that's ever happened to you? The thing that no one would believe if you told them. Before we start with the first story, please hit a subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Number 10. I dialed the wrong number while at work and was caller number 10 of a radio station and won a free cruise to the Bahamas. I went on said cruise and fell into an empty pool and ruptured several vertebrae along with a tibia. The cruise ship then left me at the hospital in the Bahamas. I woke up paralyzed from the waist down. Was then airlifted several days later to Tampa where I had a spinal fusion and am now able to walk again. All because I dialed the last digit of a phone number incorrectly. Damn man, glad to hear you're able to walk again. I'm also one of the lucky few who can walk again after being paralyzed from the waist down. What a journey that was. How are you doing now? Number 9. In second grade we had a puke-a-thon on the bus ride home with a substitute bus driver. One kid threw up which led to many more throwing up, including me. People were climbing over seats and sticking their heads out the window to avoid being next. It was like a scene out of a war movie. The driver never said a word and just kept driving. He had to be in his late 70s. I never saw him again. I always imagined he found that day as motivation to retire completely. Sounds like something similar which happened on the way back from a school camp. Kid at the back of the bus pukes everywhere. Everyone runs forward to get away. Kid at the front of the bus pukes everywhere. Number 8. Not me, my parents. My parents were both part of a traveling motorcycle caravan for a little less than a decade, waiting for they had kids. Because this concept doesn't exist anymore, think Hell's Angels, but less like an organized gang and more like a bunch of Grateful Dead/Jimmy Buffett fans who live in campgrounds full-time, just like to get stoned and play jam band-style music together. A caravan can be anywhere between 50 to several hundred riders, usually made up of individual groups of about 1 or 2 dozen people. They'd spend summers in Canada or the PNW and winters in Florida, and pick up odd jobs along the way. They never knew the other was in the caravan. Somehow the group my dad was with never actually met up with the group my mom was with, although there was a decent amount of communication between the two groups as well as with other groups. They met at a completely unrelated event that didn't involve their friends from either group. It wasn't until many years later when they had settled down and were sending out wedding invitations that they realized they knew all the same people. Number 7. I was 11 and spending Christmas with my twin friends, Charles and Andrew, and their family. On our way back to my hometown, we were on 2 separate cars, Mom, Charles and me on car 1. Dad and Andrew on car 2. We stopped at a gas station and I decided nonchalantly to change cars to talk to Andrew a bit. 10 minutes later, a car surpassed us, car 2. It was going super fast. Dad said, "That guy's gonna crash." He did. He crashed on the side of another random car. That random car went swirling around and hit car 1, Mom and Charles. Mom was in a coma for about 3 months. Charles had to undergo 2 separate surgeries. I didn't have a scratch on me because I had changed cars minutes before it happened. Oh, and the car that caused the accident just kept going as if nothing had happened. Number 6. This happened to my mom years ago. She was working 2 jobs, one as a diver in a marine center, cleaning tanks, the other was a bar job. One day she was tasked with cleaning the dolphins' tank, and her boss warned her that the dolphins were being extremely frisky, and to be careful around them. There were 3 female dolphins in total. Thinking not a lot of it, she started cleaning when suddenly one of the dolphins mounted her cylinder and started having fun. The weight of the dolphin pushed her to the bottom of the tank, and she hit her head on the floor. Before anyone could help her, the first dolphin got off, and another one hopped on, then another one. Took another 2 divers to get her out. Anyway, this made her late to her bar job where her boss didn't believe her line of "Sorry, I'm late. I was assaulted by 3 sexually aggressive female dolphins." Number 5. I played drums with a blues band for a short tour in the Czech Republic. We borrowed a drum set through a connection with a local church. I went with the pastor to pick up the drum set 2 towns over from where we were playing. He spoke basically no English, so I'm not really sure what happened when we got there. We pulled up to a very large industrial building, 4 stories tall and at least 10,000 square feet, that was obviously largely unoccupied. There were a couple dozen locals standing around smoking outside. A kid who was probably 15 came out of the building to get me and the pastor and started leading us through the building. Kid had a huge set of keys and lead us down 5 or 6 hallways with locked doors at either end, unlocking then relocking each door as we go. It was very dark and we didn't see anyone else as we went. We finally arrived at a decent-sized room with thick orange shag carpet, a couple dozen guitars and amps, keyboards, and one drum set that was packed up waiting for us. We grabbed the set, did the hallways/doors/keys thing in reverse, and went on our way. No idea what that building was, no idea if we got those drums from a criminal organization, no idea who the kid was. Number 4. Traveled cross-country to visit my elderly grandma, and while I was there we sat and had lunch with a young man and woman she had hired to help tend to her property and gardens. We figured out that they were first cousins to my closest childhood friend, and our families had 2 completely independent relationships with each other across the entire country. Each relationship had lasted near. Number 3. Brian May helped me get married. I met him at the same time as I met this boy. Brian May signed the boy's guitar, and I watched him do it. We must have been about 7 or 8, I think. I walked over to the boy and asked to see the signature. We went nuts together because we were both Queen fans since a really young age. There was an event for the nature charity in the boy's town which Brian had helped fund because he's awesome. After the party I went back to my hometown and I never saw the boy again. I spent a good week or 2 crying over my new friend that I only knew for a few hours. My dad says I missed him the moment we drove away. Then 3 years ago, I met a guy in a club in a different town and we got talking about Queen. He told me he's got a signed guitar and I didn't believe him. Tactics to get back to his place. So we went back to his flat, did the deed, and in the morning, he very proudly woke me up and presented his signed guitar. I realized it's the same guitar as the boy from the party years ago, the signature in the same place, and the same sticker on the neck. After a conversation, he remembered me and even showed me a picture his mom took on her old Polaroid of him posing with his guitar at that party. I was in the background looking gobsmacked. We got together, he proposed to Queen's lover boy, and yeah, married a year and 7 months. Number 2. Sat in a tree stand once and something hit my head pretty hard. I had a hat on. I didn't think much of it as a squirrel was above me in a tree and I figured he'd drop what he was eating and it hit me. A few minutes later it happened again. Now I'm trying to figure out what is going on as the squirrel wasn't above me anymore. As I'm looking around I see movement out of the corner of my eye and look to see a small owl, wings locked, feet out, heading right at me at what felt like match 10. I immediately yelled and waved the owl off and didn't see it again. All I can figure is the owl thought my hat was a squirrel. Not funny when you see an owl heading at your head. Hilarious now though. Same coin and different side. I was in a tree stand and a squirrel saw me and I could tell it was wondering what the hell I was. This thing had hatred in his eyes and he climbed up the tree to my right and sat, staring intently at me, wondering if he should jump at me or not. Well, he decided to jump and I actually swatted him out of the air and he let out his little squirrel noises before landing and running off to a tree that was thankfully not in jumping distance from me. Number 1. 1 week after I got my phone, decided it would be a good idea to get a screen protector on it since it was expensive at the time. Next day, I go to school. My class was on the 2nd floor. During the break, I was chilling on my phone in a spot close to a window that was open. Some kids in the school courtyard decided to throw small stones at the window. One stone hit the window itself and bounced right beside my head directly into my phone's screen, shattering the screen protector in pieces. It's been 5 years since that happened, and my parents still don't believe me. Alright folks, that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us today. If you like more of this, please hit a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your own story or thoughts in the comments below. We love to hear from you. I'll see you in the next video.